Okay, folks, we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. I am joining the show right now, Debbie Dooley, the original activist, political activist in Atlanta that created the Atlanta Tea Party several years ago. And Debbie, good morning. How are you?
Doing great. How are you doing this morning? Good morning.
I'm doing great. Now the reason I wanted to get with you when I was going through social media, let's get direct to it. You're calling what President Donald Trump came out Saturday. And let me just explain to the viewers out there, the president in a brief has proposed $5.7 billion for border wall, 3 years of protection for 700,000 DACA recipients, 3-year protection for 300,000 immigrants with expired temporary status, money for drug detection technology, humanitarian assistance, more border agents, immigration judges, and you call what he proposed Saturday amnesty. Why?
Why? Because, if you go and you look at the legal definition of amnesty, the legal definition is the act of authority by which pardon is granted to a large group of individuals. And they are being, it's a temporary pardon, so-called temporary pardon, but it's still a pardon. Even though, as I said, it's temporary, it's still a pardon. Trump ended, and this is my issue with it. You want to really talk about securing the borders when you start negotiating. If you go and you're going to purchase, or let's say you have a car for sale, you're going to ask for a lot more than what you're willing to settle for. You don't just immediately ask the price that's what you're willing to settle for. You leave wiggle room. That was not done in this. And I'm afraid that even though it's temporary amnesty, that they won't be here permanent. Trump ended DACA on September 5th, 2007, but he gave them a 6-month grace period. DACA was challenged in the courts, and they're still here. The cases are still working their way through the courts. If they're giving a 3-year amnesty or pardon, including a Social Security card, the time limit will be challenged in courts under equal protection, and they would win. And you can't trust the Democrats. One of the guys that founded Daily Cause a few weeks ago was saying, hey, I think we should take a DACA deal because we can tie the wall construction up in court. If you really want to do something, what Trump needs to do, he's already shown up the Democrats, is to pull his plan, declare a state of emergency, and start building the wall. Another problem I have with this plan that's not being talked about, that I have verified and other folks have verified will be in this bill when it goes to the Senate, it will expand catch and release. It not only would codify it and make it the legal law of the land, it would expand the catch and release at the border, which is how they get into this country and disappear. So those are some of the issues I have with it. But it's definitely amnesty. They want to talk about a good deal. You fully construct the wall. You pass mandatory E-Verify, which will do more to stop illegal immigration in this country that folks have never seen. You pass mandatory E-Verify. And so folks that are here, if they can't get a job because they're illegal, they'll self-deport. And you pass a retroactive end to chain migration, pass all of those, then we talk about DACA amnesty.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why do you think it will expand catch and release? What's in there that you see will expand catch and release?
Because there's articles in there that have already said it's going to expand catch and release. And Breitbart actually did an article on it. And, where they ran it, I'm getting ready to pull it up. We had this fight over catch and release. We had this fight in in 2013 over the Gang of 8 when they were trying to say, oh, they're going to be paying taxes, and it's really not amnesty, but it is. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. It may be temporary amnesty, which I strongly believe will turn into permanent amnesty, because what are you going to do, take away their Social Security card? There was an article on Breitbart, and I've heard it being talked about, and I actually talked to someone that had talked to congressional staff, and they confirmed it was in there. There was an article on Breitbart, I think it was around the 18th or 19th, Trump advisors push catch and release for 2019 and 2020. What it would do, it was actually Jessica Vaughn, Policy Director at Center for Immigration Studies. She said that it puts a legal force field around illegal aliens.
So,
she said that
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, she said that the expanded catch and release law creates an even stronger magnet for people to come here than the original DACA did. And she's expecting if this does pass the Senate, they're going to see every town in Central America empty out as teens and people in the 20s and 30s even try to get here, because if they're this is reported on Breitbart. This is what's going to be in the Brief Act.
Okay, well then why didn't Democrats take this deal? Why did they shut this deal down before Trump ever came to the podium? And I will tell you this. I went to several areas, and I'm not going to claim I know the answer and I'm clear on this 100%. That's why I wanted to talk to you. I mean, I went and I call him the great one, Mark Levin. I went and read Mark Levin. Read his account. He's supporting the president on this, and several are supporting the president that are conservatives, that I feel good are conservatives, and several are not supporting the president, much like yourself and some others that I think sometimes, saying, I think it's a long shot sometimes when Ann Coulter does some stuff like saying we voted for Donald Trump and we got Jeb Bush. Donald Trump's a long way from getting Jeb Bush. Okay, so sometimes those little shots bother me. But why do you think the Democrats turned this down before he even made this proposal? If what you say is, that appealing to them, they should take it.
Because they're controlled. Number one, I don't trust it if it passes the Senate not to pass the House, because of the fact there are Democrats that are, as I said, that are going out and they're already saying, hey, the founder of Daily Cost, which is a left-wing publication, I mean, he was saying a couple of weeks ago, hey, let's accept the DACA deal if it leads to a path to citizenship, which I fully believe this will eventually in the courts. And he was saying, let's take the deal. We can tie up wall construction in the courts using eminent domain. Then if we take control, we'll repeal the construction, the construction costs. We can repeal it. So I think that's what they have in mind. It's not Trump I don't trust. It's the people like his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and a lot of the open borders folks in his administration that are very close with Koch brothers, who are very much open borders, and some of the establishment swamp. I don't know if you guys were paying attention, but I was paying attention over the past 2 or 3 weeks when you would see Lindsey Graham and other open borders folks on media. They kept saying, and even news articles were written, and they kept saying, Trump's got to build the wall or he's going to lose. It's going to cost him his reelection next year. And they kept doing that. And it's not just Lindsey. It was other, folks, establishment, open borders folks were doing that. That was a clear thing that they were trying to tell Donald Trump, hey, they wanted to manipulate him and to be willing to do anything to get wall funding. That was a strategy they were using. And the bottom line is, as his base, I mean, we know he's fighting. I mean, the reason Donald Trump, and let's be completely honest with ourselves, the reason the wall is not built isn't because of the Democrats, it's because of the other Republicans. Because they had control in 2017 and 2018, and they did nothing to secure the border. It has kept being excuses after excuses after excuses to build the wall. If I'd been in Donald Trump's shoes, I would have said, okay, you want tax cuts, you want criminal justice reform, I want my wall first, because there is no reason they could not have passed it. So it's Republicans at fault in addition to Democrats. That's why we don't have the wall. And last year, I mean, the last time we faced a government shutdown, while the Republicans were still in control, that is when they should have shut the government down and said, okay, we want the wall built, when the Republicans were in control.
You think
so
he was...
go ahead.
No, do you think he was convinced to get past midterm? Do you think he was convinced, let's get past midterm, and that's where your funding will be? Do you think do you think he was meeting his part of the agreement with House Republicans to get past midterm?
I absolutely do. I think he has been played. Donald Trump is the most brilliant man in the world when it comes to business. But politics is an entirely different animal. When you're taking on the D.C. swamp, I mean, these are swamp people that live in these D.C. swamp are sleazy and slimy. They're snakes. They will build up your ego, talk about how great you are, ingratiate themselves to you, and create a crisis that you need their help to get out of. And then they will get you to trust them, and they will stab you in the back. Trump has had folks surrounding him that don't agree with his stance on immigration. They don't agree with his stance on trade. And for example, his daughter and son-in-law, Jared Kushner, they strongly support amnesty. And all of a sudden, let's look at the people that actually came up with this plan. Jared Kushner, which we already know he's open borders. Lindsey Graham, we already know where he stands. And you also have Mike Pence, who has very, very, very close ties to the Koch brothers. So they're the ones that came up with this plan and negotiation. And if Donald Trump is just doing this as a ploy to show up the Democrats, then he will pull this plan off the table. Donald Trump will listen to his base when we speak loudly enough. But, I mean, this is the problem I have. Once you open the door for this amnesty, do you really, like President Obama did with DACA in 2012? And they're still here. You open the door, you give them Social Security cards, you give them legal status. And, I mean, look at the money it will cost in welfare. Every anti-illegal immigration group and border security group has called it amnesty, and they've condemned it. Heritage Foundation condemned it, called it amnesty.
Debbie, once, the interesting thing is they tell us one thing, but the other thing is the truth. And once they, at the current time, they're not eligible, and let me say this, let me finish, they're not eligible for any kind of government assistance whatsoever. But the minute they get a Social Security number, the very first time they pay in, legally now they're eligible. So they can argue that all day long. The day they get the Social Security number, the very first payment in the Social Security, they're legally eligible for benefits.
Very good point. Another good point to consider, too, is that a lot of these, once they have Social Security cards and driver's license, they can register to vote. Even though they're not citizens and don't meet the requirement, they would be violating the law, but they could still register to vote. And this will become a magnet for even more people to come up here. We see what Ronald Reagan did, and also somebody else has come out against this and called it amnesty, is Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch. If you recall that, Judicial Watch, he's come out against it. and called it amnesty, because there are a lot of folks out there that will actually look at, you know, not just take talking points and things like that, actually sit back and analyze it and look at it so they all see it for what it is. And my thing is, we can't take the chance of it passing through the Senate because we don't trust the Democrats. It's not Trump we don't trust.
You know, I gotta add Mitch McConnell on to that list. I'm not for sure. Mitch has been awful quiet. Mitch has been awful quiet and laying low for the deal that he's going to get through, and that's why he's been quiet. Debbie, I have to agree with so many of your points. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts on that and your reasoning. And like I said, I watched the media tell us that they're not eligible, but I'm going to tell you legally, the minute they get that Social Security number and pay in, they're eligible for every benefit we have. Debbie, I appreciate it. I've got to run. Thank you so much for calling in.
Always an honor to be on your show. Bye.
Thank you. Debbie Dooley, co-founder of the Atlanta Tea Party, co-founder of the Atlanta Tea Party. I never forget that big Atlanta Tea Party meeting where Sean Hannity was down here. That's Debbie Dooley, also a political activist. Do you think it's amnesty? Do you think what President Trump offered is amnesty? If so, let us know. I've got to go on the other side of this break. It's time for Instant Replay. I'm your host. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Don't forget, you can always contact this show, 706-889-9700, 706-889-9700, and there are all the social media ways to get in touch with us. Hey, we'll be back tomorrow morning. Thank you for watching.